the Vanceboro Council special hearing meeting to order. In attendance, we have Councilman Hart, Councilman Andrews, Councilwoman McManaman, Councilman Ladenburg, and we have virtual Councilman and Councilwoman Baumgartner, and we have and we have chat. Yes. Thank you. It's been a while, Chad. I'm sorry. You're the new guy.
I'm the new guy.
And also on attendance, we have Borough Manager Shane Tucky. We have our solicitor and virtual. We'll have our law presenters. And with that, I will turn it over to the solicitor. This has been advertised properly. And turn it over to the solicitor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a brief opening remarks. Is it on?
Yep. Speak into it.
Some brief opening remarks so that everyone understands what we're doing. There was a request by Wawa for a liquor license transfer, an intermunicipal liquor license transfer, which means they would like to move a license from outside the borough, inside the borough for the Wawa. The request under the law, we're supposed to have a hearing within 60 days, and you have to have 2 advertisements. But because of the COVID problem, we asked for an extension, and it was granted. And we did our advertising, and I'm going to put all these in as exhibits. The law is now settled by case law that the only way you can deny this is if you have a legitimate reason to deny it. The basis of the fact is that you have to have, if you have more than one license per 3,000 inhabitants, you have to they have to ask for this transfer. And that's what's being done right now. And there's a resolution that we will be doing at the end. So with that, I'd like to open the hearing with a series of exhibits, and then I will turn it over to Ms. Freeman and let her make her presentation on behalf of the applicant. The first exhibit, which is Exhibit 1, is a letter dated May 26, 2020 from Ms. Freeman of Flaherty and O'Hara requesting the liquor license transfer. And this is for a liquor license 54R5432 to the Wawa located at the intersection of South Cedar Crest Boulevard and Chestnut Street. So based on that letter, I then sent a letter which is going to be marked Exhibit 2 by email to Ms. Freeman requesting an extension of time, which she granted. I will put that as Exhibit 2. Pursuant to the law, we need to have public notice of this hearing, and it has to be published for 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper of general circulation, so we use the East Penn Press. So as Exhibit 3, I have consolidated the public notice, which was printed in the newspaper on both July 1, 2020 and July 8, 2020, together with the proof of publication, which is duly notarized. Those will be jointly known as Exhibit 3. And it's my understanding that Ms. Freeman is going to be seeking to introduce the floor plan as Exhibit 4, but we will let her do so. With that, I will turn that over to Ms. Freeman. Actually, it looks like she disappeared here. Can she hear us?
I know that Mr. Yu, unmute Mr. Yu.
Hello?
Get the phone number there.
Ms. Freeman, is that you?
Your phone number? Possible? She called it.
So I've asked Ted Yokes to um, chime in here, so I don't see Ms. Freeman anymore. Oh, here comes Ms. Freeman back. And it looks like Ms. Freeman came in, but there's no, is there a number, this 304 number, do you know?
I'm checking right now.
Is it 304-281 number?
I believe it is.
Coming in another way. Welcome to virtual meetings.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can. There you are.
There you are.
I am so sorry. Can you guys hear me on this computer?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, great. Again, apologies, of course, getting computer technological issues right as you guys started. So I heard the solicitor give a brief overview. I assume it's my time to present.
It is.
Okay, great. Well, I believe I heard Ted introduce himself, but my name's Ellen Freeman. I'm the attorney with Flaherty and O'Hara, representing Wawa Inc. And we are requesting a liquor license transfer. This is pursuant to the Liquor Code Title 47, Section 461B3. It will be used at the new location, which is at the intersection of South Cedar Crest Boulevard and Chestnut Streets. This, to give you a little bit of background information, this is not Wawa's first time doing a liquor license in Pennsylvania. They have 2 other locations that are currently open and operating. And they actually have 3 more that are on the way that have pending PLCB applications. And at these 2 that are open and operating, I can say that with great pleasure that they have a perfect record. Meaning that they don't have any citations from the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement for any violations of the liquor code. So while they've been open and operating, they have a perfect record, no sales to minors, no sales to intoxicated persons. And I believe that that record and that perfect record is based on their safety policies that they focus on at those 2 stores, and that they would also focus on should the borough council members approve a resolution permitting the transfer this evening. The exhibit that I presented to the manager for this hearing is a tentative floor plan. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at that, like I said, it is tentative. I want to just make sure that you guys know that this is preliminary stages. Construction isn't going to be starting for a little while. So there could be some changes here and there to the overall structure. But what I wanted to do was give you something that you can visualize where the alcohol would be stored, displayed, and purchased, as well as potentially consumed on premises. So I tried to make it color-coded so that it was a little bit easier for everyone to visualize. So I want to go ahead and start with the largest portion of the floor plan, which is that yellow square in the off right hand of the floor plan. This is the kitchen area. If you've been in a Wawa, you know it has an extensive menu. It offers breakfast, lunch, and dinner options, as well as appetizers, desserts, pretty much anything that you want is going to be able to provide to you from that kitchen. I mention it, important to know that Wawa is getting a restaurant liquor license, so they are held to the same requirements and standards as any other restaurant in your borough or in the county would be subject to. And one is that they offer food for on-premises consumption. So that food area is important for them to maintain and to offer to its customers. There won't be any alcohol displayed or sold from that area. That's solely the food section. But again, just wanted to note and point out where it would be on a floor plan. Now, if you go down to the bottom left-hand corner where you see what looks like an upside down L shape, the green, that is not accessible to customers. That is where their storage will be of their beer and wine. That is lockable. So all the beer and wine will be under lock and key, and only the employees who are ramp trained, which I'll get into what ramp is, and who are at least 18 years of age and have gone through Wawa's internal training policies will be able to access that area. Now, just off to the right of there where the blue shape is, that is accessible to customers. This is where the beer and wine will most likely be displayed. This is where the customer will be able to access both cold beer and warm beer. Warm beer is just beer that's not been chilled yet, which is on a shelf, as well as chilled wine and then warm wine. So all of this product that's in this left-hand corner will be under video camera at all times. So there's cameras that are going to face that product. And as well as there's going to be signage on all of the doors, letting customers know Wawa's policy so that there's no confusion over whether or not you need an ID or whether or not you're permitted to be in that section where the alcohol is located. Then just off to the right where the red square is, that is the seating area. So there will be seating for up to 30 patrons at a time. And this is the only area where beer and or wine can be consumed by customers. There will be cameras that monitor this area. And again, there will be signage which makes clear to patrons that they must be 21 years of age in order to consume alcohol, that they must have purchased the alcohol prior to opening it, that they're not permitted to open up a container and walk around the store or walk outside of the store, that there's no consumption of alcohol in the parking lot, and that there is a limit on the amount that they can consume in one sitting. So this is, again, just beer and wine. There will be no spirits sold at Wawa for on-premises consumption. And like I said, this is going to be monitored by cameras, but it's also in a well-lit area of the store so that any associates in the kitchen can monitor it, as well as those who are monitoring around the store. And then finally, if we go around to the right-hand corner, this is the checkout area where all the cashiers are, cash registers. There are specifically designated cash registers which will allow for the sale of beer and wine, and those cash registers will be equipped with signage as well so that the customer knows which register that he or she can go to purchase alcohol products. The importance of designating registers is so that Wawa can make sure that those registers are manned by an employee who is 18 years of age, which is the legal age to sell alcohol, as well as ensure that the associate who is manning that register has trained but with Wawa's internal policies and also the PLCB's requirements. So to get into that, Wawa has a training procedure in place for the employee who is hired to sell, stock, or serve alcohol. So they'll go through the internal policies that are not technically liquor code requirements, but the stricter policies that Wawa puts in place at their stores to ensure that they're selling alcohol in a responsible manner. Some of those policies include the limit on the amount of alcohol that a person can purchase and consume on premises, and the fact that they card 100% of their patrons. So no matter what your age you look like, you're going to be carded by an associate. And then third, use a card scanner transaction device in every single transaction to ensure that the ID that's been provided to them by a patron is not a fraudulent ID, and that they've done their math correct on the year that the patron was born, and they are in fact 21 years of age or older. In addition to their internal policies, all of the associates that are going to be working on the premises selling or stocking alcohol will also have taken the PLCB's Responsible Alcohol Management Program. And this particular training program goes through a number of different scenarios with each of the associates in order to teach them how to properly card a patron, how to spot a fake ID, how to use the card scanner transaction device correctly. And then in addition to that, the training also goes through a number of scenarios of how to de-escalate a situation if the employee decides that they cannot make a sale to a particular individual, and how to make sure that that individual doesn't get upset or escalate the situation. So it teaches them a lot of things. Visibly intoxicated patrons are really honed in on in that training to ensure that they know the signs of it, and again, how to handle it if it comes up. Again, there will be security cameras that are going to monitor this area and capture every transaction. And then the hours of operation for this store is 24/7. However, the alcohol sales will be limited by state law, which is Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. and then on Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. Wine sales have to cease at 11 p.m. by law, so that will be in effect. And Wawa plans on programming their registers in order to ensure that there are no sales outside of that time frame. So the registers will essentially lock out their associates from scanning any of the beer and wine SKUs, the product, to sell it. There is also a limit on how much Wawa can sell per transaction. So that's 190 fluid ounces of beer to go in one transaction, and 3,000 milliliters of wine to go. So if you're looking at it from a customer perspective, that's basically a 12-pack of beer and 4 standard bottles of wine in a single transaction. That was a general overview of their operations as well as the floor plan. I do just want to put on the record that Wawa is very sensitive to this topic and how they handle the sale of alcohol, specifically in this borough. Wawa has a very strong regional following, and they have a very strong reputation in all the communities that they represent. So they are very aware that they cannot come into a community, a municipality, and operate in a haphazard manner and tarnish that reputation. So that's why they intend to put all of these safety policies and procedure in place and to carry on the perfect record that they have at their other 2 stores. And they hope to do that here in Emmaus Borough. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the solicitor. Again, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. And I'm sure if I'm not able, hopefully Ted can hop in and I can put him in the hot seat. And if neither one of us can answer, we'll certainly figure out the answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to mark as Exhibit 4 your proposed floor plan, and we'll introduce that as well into the documentary evidence in the record. And at this point in time, I am going to ask first if anyone in the public wish to comment on this application.
Mr. Solicitor, so at this point we'll do people that are present, and then we'll give the opportunity for people that are on the virtual.
That'd be great. So we'll do anyone here in the room that would like to comment. There is no response from anybody in the room. So if you want to then check online now, please.
At this time, Shane will unmute our guest, and if anyone wants to make an appeal, please speak up and state your name, where you're from, and what your appeal is. If we don't hear anyone speak up, we'll move on. Are they all unmuted? So everyone's unmuted. If you have any comments or appeals, please do so now. Hearing none, we'll move on to council comments. We just need give them a second to mute everyone.
I have a question, Mr. President. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chris.
I can also hear you.
I have a question for our solicitor. Just, you said you have to have a good reason, and that doesn't mean I'm against this, but what's a good I mean, like, what's our criteria?
Oh, the meeting's muted.
Okay.
It looks like Mr. Pepe is muted.
Okay. Can you start back over?
Sure. As I say, the statute is somewhat unclear on that issue, but the case law that now has been developed beyond that requires some kind of articulable reason for a denial. In other words, there's too many, noise, whatever. But I think that something that you have to be able to point to rather than, and I just don't feel like it.
Okay.
Do any other council members have any comments or questions? I have a question for Ms. Ellen. So I have never been into a convenience store where they serve food and you can actually drink on premises. Can you just review how that works? So they actually purchase the beer there and then they order food and they sit down and drink it, or it's not actually served to them from like a waitress or a waiter?
Yeah, that's correct. And I will tell you that a lot of our clients, my firm represents all of the convenience stores and grocery stores in Pennsylvania. So we're very familiar with this topic. And years ago, our clients stopped selling for on-premises consumption and actually restricted it and said, no, you can't consume on premises. You can only purchase to go. Just last year, the PLCB came out with a statement saying that if a restaurant liquor licensee, which is what grocery stores and convenience stores obtain, is restricting the sale of alcohol for on-premises consumption, it's violating the use of a restaurant liquor license. So they have to allow, by law, their customers to consume on premises. So that's why Wawa has a policy in place where they restrict the amount that you're permitted to drink. And quite frankly, if you go into a giant food stores or a Weiss in your area, those places likely have the same restrictions in place. They may not prominently display it as much as Wawa does to put their customers on notice, but they're going to make sure that it's limited. Now, I will say also that it is incredibly limited, the amount of people who actually take a licensee up on this on-premises consumption, but it does happen. So Wawa trains its employees. Part of its internal training policy is to teach its associates how to spot anyone who's drinking over there. Like I mentioned, the signage does say the policy that's going to be in place, as well as the fact that you have to purchase it in advance. So no one is actually serving you any alcohol over there. But if I were purchasing, just one bottle of beer or even a 6-pack of beer and took it over to the seating area, I could open one to consume with my meal purchase and have like an actual dine-in experience. Like I said, it's very rare when it happens, which is why it's so easy for Wawa and its associates to monitor that area when it does happen and to keep their eye on that patron to ensure that that patron is following the policy that's in place that has a limit on it. And if they become aggravated the fact that they can't open a second beer, then Wawa is well within their rights to have them leave, and if they don't leave, to call local law enforcement. But to answer your question more specifically, no one is actually serving a patron any alcohol. It all has to be purchased at that cash register.
Is the seating area a walled-in area, or is it an open floor concept type thing?
It's an open floor concept.
Okay,
I mean,
that's all I had then. That's all I had.
What's that now? I'm sorry.
That's all I had for questions. Anybody
Okay.
else have any questions? Councilman Anders?
My other question is, and I'm looking at the floor plan, I am correct, there's
Talk
nothing,
into the microphone so she can hear
okay,
you.
there is no outdoor seating, correct? And no carry-
I don't believe there's any outdoor seating. That might be a question for Ted. However, I can testify to the fact that they wouldn't be allowed to sit outside and consume alcoholic beverages. If there is seating outside, it's solely for, if they want to eat their meal, but they're not permitted to take their beverages outside to consume. Ted, can you weigh in on whether or not there's going to be outdoor seating at this location?
Sure, yeah, just to clarify, no outdoor seating, and to the point Ellen made, if we were ever to add outdoor seating and it was for the consumption, we would have to come back to this council and also get approval from the PLCB to sell it and allow people to consume it in that area. So no outdoor seating.
Thanks, Ted.
Any other council members? Hearing none, solicitor, we ask for adjournment or?
We will at this point close the hearing, and as I understand it, your resolution will appear on the regular agenda, is that correct? Or do you want to do it right away? Okay, what's going to happen, Ms. Freeman, is that the resolution will come up in our regular hearing, our regular meeting in due course, and since I heard no objections, I could pretty well say you know what the outcome will be. Although if you wish to remain on, you're welcome.
I'll go ahead and remain on. I appreciate it, though. Again, apologies for my lateness.
And with that, we close the hearing. Thank you.
All right, we'll close the meeting out or the hearing out at 7:30. Bring up your council meeting agenda on your iPad. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Image Borough Council meeting. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, the meeting has been called to order at 7:32. Personal appeals part 1. If anyone has a personal appeal, please approach the podium, sign in, state your name and where you're from, and you have 5 minutes for your appeal. Seeing none here, we will mute all our guests or unmute all our guests on the virtual and see if anyone has a public appeal. All right, at this time, if anyone out in the cyber public has a public appeal, just speak up and state your name and where you're from. You have 5 minutes for your appeal. Any appeals? Hearing none, you may mute them again. All right, community minute. Does anybody have a community minute to bring forward?
I do, Mr. President. I would like to acknowledge the death of Mr. John Sanchez. He passed away July 4th. He was very active in our local politics around here, and gonna greatly be missed.
I concur. We've had past residents that have attended meetings right on a regular basis, and John was one. He brought good ideas forward in the past, and we appreciate that he was involved in this community, and he will be missed. So may you rest in peace. Thank you. Anybody else with the community minute? All right, hearing none, we'll move. There's no special presentations. Reading of the minutes. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the council meeting minutes from June 15th? Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilwoman McManaman. Any additions or corrections on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. We had no decisions on bids. Under communications, we have 7 letters. We have a letter from Keith Miller to the postmaster. This was actually a very nice letter. We had a mailman that was delivering mail. Mail woman who was delivering mail and found a resident face down in their backyard and called 911. The resident was unresponsive. What appeared to be a heat stroke. Our emergency crews came and rescued the lady and got her to the emergency room and saved her life, basically. So he wrote a letter to the postmaster saying that she should be recognized. And it's nice to hear stories like that. Somebody's life being saved because somebody took an extra step. So thank you, Keith Miller, for recognizing a good deed. And then we had 3 letters of resignation from the Recreation and Entertainment Commission. We have a letter from Kathy Minzer, who I would like to recognize. She's been involved through the, what was the first one called? The Recreation Committee, Parks and Rec Commission. She was involved with the commission for, I'm going to say, about 8 years, and then it merged with the Entertainment Commission, and then she was on there. So for a total of 11 years. So please send a letter thanking her for her service. We also had a letter from Barbara Graff. She's been involved for about 3 years. Also a letter for all of them for her service. And then we had Donna Weaver, who was involved for maybe the last year. So we'd like to thank them for their service. Active Learning Center sent a letter requesting parking space from our Jubilee parking over here. 10 spaces, I believe. I will refer that to general administration. Letter was received requesting a dog walking in the Emmaus Community Park, which currently does not allow pets. I'll refer that to Parks and Recreation. And we received a letter of resignation from the police department from Melanie Sayers. And I believe the one sentence, this letter is to inform you I am resigning from my position as patrolwoman at the Emmaus Police Department effective July 23rd. Thank you.
I do want to recognize Melanie and congratulate her.
Are you able to say why she?
Absolutely. We're very proud of Melanie, and we truly hope she succeeds with her move to the FBI. So we're extremely happy for her. It's a major loss for us. But congratulations to Melanie, well deserved. For those of you that know her, excellent police officer, and I think she has a mind and wherewithal that the FBI is looking for. So congratulations to Melanie.
Yeah, they're lucky to get her. Thank you, Shane. Does anybody else have a letter of communication to bring forward? Hearing none, Borough Engineers report, we have none. Solicitors report.
Very briefly, Mr. President, I finished my reassembly of the disabled persons parking permit policy, and it is now back in committee's hands. And that's all I have at this time.
Thank you.
Progress.
Unfinished business part one, we have nothing. New business, we have ordinance 1203. This is the first reading. Was it properly advertised?
No, it's first reading.
So we only have to advertise for a second reading?
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's a saddle update. So this is the same process as a, like a zoning amendment.
Okay.
We have to go through, you know, the 60, 90 days. all
To
that.
applying
Yeah.
to the county, you know. All right. So ordinance 1203 is an ordinance amending chapter 22 subdivision and land development of the codified ordinances, amending submission deadlines, the number of printed submissions, and administrative details for final approval of submitted plans. Like I said, it's the first reading. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1203? Councilman Valiant, seconded by Councilman Anders. This came from which committee was it? The
Health, Sanitation, and Code.
Would you like to just give us a brief overview of this, Councilman Valiant?
Yeah, so Mr. President, and what this ordinance is going to do is it just extends everybody's timeline to make it a little bit more reasonable working time to get things timeframes properly. And this was a initiative out of Planning Commission, and also just most people that are submitting the plans as well sometimes needs a little bit more time. There's just there's not enough time between
For reviewing?
Yeah, and a good example of that would be, right now, the timeline to review the plan and to have in front of the commission is 10 days. And we received a new set of plans for Fields of Indian Creek. They want to add 23 more houses. They submitted it right at the 10-day mark, and you have to have full engineer reviews, code reviews, fire reviews, all that stuff within the 10 days. And quite honestly, what happens is it rushes it. They don't have a complete review. They end up re-reviewing it. It turns it into a mess. And quite honestly, it ends up costing the developer more money because they're catching more things later on in second and third reviews. So our engineers felt that, you know, they needed an extra week to do the review. We also, our planning commission wants to go virtual. They're sick of the police department, you know, having to deliver big sets of plans for them when they don't need to measure, you know, the quarter inch to the plan. What they're looking at is the whole thing as an overview. So we can actually, and we put in the ordinance that plans will be submitted through a readable PDF. We can put them on Granicus as well. So that eliminates the amount of copies, the police department having to spend their resources to deliver plans, kind of like what we did with council. And then just some other administrative things. It's not it's not overdoing, or doing over the entire SADO ordinance that's coming later, but it's all administrative improvements that are much needed, just to make the process, I think, more efficient.
Does anybody else have any comments? The roll call vote, Councilwoman McManaman.
Aye.
Councilman Anders.
Aye.
Councilman Valiant.
Aye.
Councilman Hart.
Aye.
Councilman Ledford. Aye. Councilman DeFrame.
Aye.
And Councilwoman Baumgartner.
Aye.
There are 7 ayes. Unfinished business part 2, we have nothing. Items not on the agenda. Does anybody have anything to bring forward that's not on the agenda? Hearing none, mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your iPads this evening is my mayor's report from April up until now. Also, you have Proclamation 2020-491, and that's Pennsylvania Founders Day, July 30th, here and after. Whereas on July 30th, 1747, 44 individuals established a Moravian congregation that evolved into a democratic community, later to be named and known as the names. And whereas the community continued to develop and care for its citizens and encourage its growth. And whereas in 1759, the first home was established in the community. And whereas the Mass Heritage Alliance educates the population and celebrates the history and development of our community and desires that the community be aware of its evolution. Now therefore, I, Leanne Gilbert, Mayor of the Borough of UMass, proclaim July 30th of each year henceforth as a special day to show appreciation to the settlers in 1747 who established a Moravian congregation of 44 people that evolved into the village of Emmaus, Pennsylvania, which we enjoy and govern. Let this day of each year hereinafter be a celebration of the legacy of Emmaus. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and seal and cause the seal of the Borough of Emmaus, Pennsylvania to be affixed this 20th day of July, 2020. Done the Borough of Emmaus. Also, just a piece of information. I attended the 49th annual conference of the Pennsylvania State Mayors Association, at which time we voted on the resolution 2020-03, which is a resolution that is opposing the sale and discharge of fireworks. So in particular, the association is asking the General Assembly of Pennsylvania to repeal the state's law. So we'll see what happens with that. But we did vote on Thursday, and it's going to be sent up, and we'll see what happens. Other than that, I report progress.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Committee reports. Public Works Committee, Chairman Anders.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have one item for official action, and that is the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation's winter municipal agreement. Our current 5-year term has expired, and this is a renewal of the agreement. Mr. Pepe, is there any changes as far as the agreement?
No, there are no material changes.
Okay.
It's just the update.
Okay, so this is just an update where we plow the roads, correct, and get reimbursed, change?
Yes.
And it is on the state road that we have here through town. So again, it is a new 5-year agreement, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
There's a motion by Councilman Anders. Is there a second? Councilman Balliet. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
In our meeting notes, we have a couple items. One thing that I did want to mention is Mr. Dashala, our Public Works Director, will be purchasing a crack sealing machine, and that will be used to work on the roads this year. And beyond that, there is a street light survey that is on Facebook for our residents to take the survey and look at the differences between the lighting that we're proposing and to get feedback. And I know there's been a lot of different feedback on that, and we thank the residents for that. We hope to have some more so we can make an informed decision. And beyond that, I'll report progress.
Thank you, Chairman Anders. Just for the record, it was not Brent Reed that was in attendance, it was Brent Layton. I wasn't in the,
For what?
for attendance, it said Brent Reed and not Brent Layton.
He was probably here too.
Don't worry, there's another one down the line.
Are they committee notes?
Yeah. Health, Sanitation, and Codes Committee, Chairman Balliet.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Can't see if you're smiling or not.
Or what else I could look
Come on.
Tonight, we're gonna have to vote to fulfill a vacancy on the Board of Health. I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Keith Miller, who is our acting ambulance chief, to the Board of Health.
There's a motion by Councilman Balliet, seconded by Councilman Hart. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
We've already discussed the ordinance 1203 with the land development and subdivision updates and stuff like that. Our next meeting is going to be July 29th. It's going to be 4:30 here in the building and also available Zoom. With that, I'd like to report progress.
Thank you, Chairman Balliet. Parks and Recreation Committee, Chairwoman Baumgartner. We get to hear your voice.
Yes, hello. Let me try the video. There we go. Can you see me okay?
Yep.
You can speak a little louder, that's all.
Sure. So we only have one item for official action today. MAS Youth Association was interested in placing additional shed at Community Park. I think it was to house their lawn equipment for taking care of the fields. So I'd like to put that in the form of a motion to allow Emmaus Youth Association to place an additional shed at Community Park contingent upon approval by Public Works and Zoning.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Baumgartner. Is there a second? Councilwoman McManaman, discussion?
Yeah, we talked about this at the committee level, and it makes a lot of sense for these guys to be able to have their stuff nearby. We also discussed about placement of it, and I don't really see any real issues with this.
Yeah. Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
Thank you. You'll see our meeting minutes attached. If there are any questions about anything we discussed at our last meeting, I can take those questions now. Otherwise, our next meeting will be August 4th at 4:45 p.m. I believe we're going to be doing it via Zoom, but that'll be updated on the website for sure. So I report progress.
Thank you, Chairwoman Baumgartner. Public Safety Committee, Chairman Hart.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a lot of fun on July 13th and did a number of things. First of which does not require your action, but I want to report on it. And that is, recall that this body gave that committee the authority to determine whether to reopen the second ambulance that we had closed down for a while. We received that information, so at this time it was not necessary. We're going to look at it next month. What we did do, however, is approve the transport vehicle to open up in addition to the one some of the I just wanted to keep you apprised of what was going on there. All right, next, the school resource officer renewal. Too often we speak and debate negative or problematic issues within these chambers. Of course, tonight, we're renewing a contract with an entity within our borough that is a success story by anyone's measure. Why a success? Because of ongoing collaboration and communication between the borough, specifically the mayor and police department, and East Penn School District. This 2-year renewal of the contract for services of a school resource officer from our police department, principally working within the high school, is an extension of an evolving successful program in the school. My sense upon receiving feedback about this program is that this is not simply a police officer stationed at the building, but a resource officer embedded in the educational staff, helping students in a number of beneficial ways. In other words, they are part of the team and fabric. How can you tell? This person eats lunch with the students at East Penn School. The officer's salary was paid for by the school district 42 weeks of the 52 weeks of officer out of office salary. I resoundingly make a recommendation to approve the contract.
There's a motion by Councilman Hart. Is there a second? Councilwoman McManaman, any discussion?
Is anything with coding the fact that
I mean, the contract language is in there. It says what it says. So I will echo Mr. Hart's sounding motion. Officer costs is part of the fabric of that school, and just some of the things that would happen at that school prior. 8 lockdowns in a single year. In the 3 to 4 years that Officer Claus has been there, Mayor, how many lockdowns has that school had? Maybe 1. We had 8 in 1 single year. One of the things that is important is the relationship he has with the students. The students go to him with issues. The students talk to him. The students come to his office. He is a true resource. He's not just a guy with a badge. And that's important. Because if you do the program the right way, it's a good partnership. But you have to do the program the right way. And I feel that the partnership that the school has with our department, I believe that partnership is very valuable for both the community as well as the school. And then some of the things that happen is it's amazing what the students will share with our officer that they won't share with their counselors, with the teachers, even with their other students. And some serious things that quite honestly are disturbing sometimes, but it's very valuable and it's helped with many, many different issues. So this is a partnership that quite honestly, I think is invaluable for both sides.
Shane, I agree as a father with a daughter that is in that high school right now. It's great having you.
May I make a comment? So I think it's important to know that within the contract, Officer Kloss or whatever officer is there, they actually engage in programming. So continuing education and awareness programs that they have along with the staff and students, I think is a very cool, very, it's a much needed conversation and dialogue that he has with everyone. And I commend that Officer Kloss.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
Resolution 2020-25. Fireworks. Now we're back to the negative issues that must be discussed in these chambers. As the mayor mentioned, this is something that's been a hot button throughout the Commonwealth recently. Fireworks complaints have just in this past, in my opinion, outnumbered complaints about our former refuse hauler. The bill passed by the state legislature in 2017 opened the gates for non-professional and yes, oftentimes inebriated individuals to try to challenge the professional pyrotechnical staff at Coca-Cola Park and Dorney Park in their displays of magnificence. Unfortunately, they are trying to do this as untrained individuals within our borough, where it is difficult to be more than 150 feet from a dwelling and on non-public property. Also, Dorney and Coca-Cola Park abstain from 3 a.m. displays that seem to be desirable by some people within our borough. The Safety Committee, along with the police and fire department's leadership of that committee, are unanimous in their desire to recommend to our state representatives modification or repeal of Act 43 of 2017. A modification would have the mayor join the 5 to 7 municipalities in Senator Brown's amendment to permit those municipalities to act with their governing body to restrict use of fireworks, including elimination altogether. Mr. Pepe kindly constructed a resolution for us to present to you. If you approve it, we would send it on to our legislature. Forgive me for taking a moment to read this. Welcome. Whereas Pennsylvania enacted Act 43 of 2017, known as the Fireworks Law, allowing individuals to purchase consumer fireworks, which contain up to 50 milligrams of explosive material. This includes fireworks, Roman candles, and bottle rockets, along with others. Whereas, although there are provisions in the Act that deem it illegal to ignite fireworks within 150 feet of a structure or public spaces, there have been unintended consequences of adoption of this law. Whereas, current law allows individuals to easily purchase consumer fireworks. Communities throughout Pennsylvania are being bombarded throughout the summer with legal fireworks explosions at all hours of the day and night. Whereas, despite the requirements of the law, many individuals are ignoring its provisions and are setting off fireworks illegal in every community, including the borough of Emmaus. Whereas the borough of Emmaus has received countless complaints and concerns regarding individuals setting off fireworks, and whereas the mortar and fireworks are landing on housetops, vehicles, and schools, backyards, and all over the community, the safety of the members of our community is in danger. Whereas the Emmaus Police Department, Fire Department, and Public Safety Departments throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania are overburdened and overtaxed with trying to track down and stop individuals who are illegally setting off fireworks. Whereas, on holidays such as July 4th in the Lehigh Valley, it is impossible to narrow illegal fireworks in the community, as there were countless illegal displays throughout the borough as throughout our neighboring communities. And whereas the residents, businesses, and community members of the borough of UMass are fearful of the dangers, noise, and nuisance that consumer fireworks have brought to our community. Whereas Senator Pat Brown has introduced an amendment to the current fireworks law that just passed throughout the borough and will give leaders in the city and towns the option of banning consumer-grade fireworks. It's getting praise from local mayors. However, the amendment only currently applies to the 5 largest cities in Pennsylvania. Whereas the representative of Senator Brown's office recently informed our community leaders that there is a potential that the Senate could consider amending the bill to include other communities. Whereas Representative Bob Friedman of Northampton County is proposing a bill that says it would give local authority the power to regulate fireworks on their own. Whereas Senator Jude Schwank of Berks County stated that she recently proposed a bill allowing municipalities to the option to develop their own fireworks resolution. However, the bill never moved out of the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee. She now plans to introduce the bill to repeal the law. Whereas Representative Mike Schlosenberg recently stated that he regrets voting in favor of the 2017 law and feels it must be corrected, calling it an unmitigated disaster. Whereas Representative Pete Schreier recently stated that, quote, if a cop shows up in someone's backyard and there's fireworks debris all over the place, and then they see a big stash of fireworks in the corner, right now, they're not allowed to confiscate the big stash of fireworks. End of quote. Almost done. Whereas it is the intention of the Council of the Borough of UMass to encourage our state legislatures to make amendments to Act 43, 2017. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Borough of UMass encourages the legislators of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to amend Act 43 of 2017 to ensure the safety and well-being of the residents. Be it further resolved that although Council of the Borough of UMass prefers Act 33 of 2017 is completely repealed, Council urges the Pennsylvania Senate to make amendments to Bill 932 introduced by Senator Pat Brown, including municipalities such as the Borough of Mass, who has a population of 11,500 residents spread over only 2.9 square miles. And finally, be it further resolved that the Council of Borough of Mass also encourages the state legislature to consider a bill similar to the proposal from Senator Freeman, whereas municipalities would have the authority to establish their own plans. Mr. President, I offer that in the form of a motion.
There's a motion by Councilman Hart to approve, what's the number? Resolution 2020-25. Is there a second? Councilman Collier. Any comments? I have a comment. I will be voting against this for the following reasons. Don't get me wrong. I know the enormity of this problem. I live in UMass. I hear them all the time. But what I don't like doing is voting for something that's not going to change anything. 2.9 miles in the borough of UMass. They cannot legally shoot fireworks anywhere in the borough right now because of the law, the way it's written. The distance from buildings and public spaces. So, let me ask you this question. If we ban fireworks in the borough of UMass, do you think that's going to stop them? Fireworks are legal in Pennsylvania. They're going to purchase them, and the people that are shooting them illegally now are going to shoot them off illegally then. It's an enforcement issue. If you can't enforce it, it's not going to stop. So you may ban it, but they're still going to continue. And if you don't enforce it, it's still going to continue. There's only one thing that I support that's in that resolution, is that if they do find fireworks, they should be able to confiscate them. Because they do cost a lot of money. But the other reason I don't support it is I don't think every municipality should make their own law with regard to this, because as a person in this borough, in the state, if you go from here to the next township at a party and you're gonna shoot some fireworks off and you don't know what the regulations are from town to town. It's almost impossible to follow that. So it's a state issue. They have to do it from the state level. I mean, other than banning fireworks, the sales, and it's not gonna happen because it's bringing millions of dollars into the state. But just send a resolution to Harrisburg just to act like you're doing something. It's not gonna change a thing because unless you enforce it, it's not gonna change. They're still gonna continue to shoot them. And that's just the way I feel. I want to do something just as much as everyone else. But to me, this is it's just not a vote that's going to change anything. It's really not going to change it. It's other than to say, oh, I feel like I did something. And I'm just not in favor of doing stuff that makes me feel good. I just don't think it's going to change. You can ban fireworks in Pennsylvania. And that would, you still have to enforce it. So, that's my heart.
Mr. President, I never make a recommendation that I don't intend to force people. I respectfully disagree. Do not make it. We will, at the very least, reduce substantially the amount of legal fireworks.
Do you honestly believe that?
I honestly.
They're illegal now. They're shooting them now. There's nowhere in the world they can legally shoot fireworks. Nowhere.
Just a different thing. The noise ordinance doesn't cover something like this, correct? So that you can say you can't shoot it. To say this, they're legal, right? I mean, that you can't shoot them off after a certain amount of time period. Is that something that is more considerable than possibly, is that something that can be done? I mean, still you have to enforce it.
Yeah,
You still have to catch the person doing it. But I'm just saying, if it's a certain time of the night, is there any recourse for something like that?
Could I answer that? There's a legal principle called preemption, where the state government has preempted the field, then we are not allowed to add or subtract from what they have stated are the uses. They put the 150, but there's 5 requirements in the state law that you can't do. They have, in my opinion, preempted the field. Obviously, the legislatures think so too, because that's why they're trying to want to give us those powers. There are certain municipalities in the Lehigh Valley who have tried to disregard the preemption and have tried to go out on their own and have put prescriptions on there such as times and all that. I believe that that is illegal. The state has taken over that field. If they had said nothing and just said, okay, we allow fireworks, then we could have done whatever we wanted. We could have said we can't fire fireworks after 8 o'clock. They didn't do that. They went ahead and put the time, all these limits that they put on there, which preempts the field. And I felt that way from the beginning. By the way, I concur that the fireworks are out of control. That's not why I'm telling you that. I think the state is going to have to fix this.
I totally agree.
Mr. President, one of the things that we discussed at Public Safety was that we also recognize that maybe nothing will change, but it's going to create the dialogue again, open the conversation again, and have some of these lawmakers actually change it so that it will help each individual municipality. So if we don't do something proactively, we don't even have the option to help ourselves.
Proactively would be enforcing the law because they can't shoot them in the borough now. So I don't understand why we're asking them to say that we can make our own laws. They're banned now. We got to enforce it. It's tough to do when they're shooting it off. You go there and they're done shooting them off, or they just don't shoot them when you're there, and then they go to the next place. It's hard to enforce it. So, Borough Manager Pepe pointed out that there's somebody in the audience that keeps raising their hand. Just for those who haven't been to a meeting before, there's 2 times when the public can speak. It's Public Appeals 1 and Public Appeals 2. We do have Public Appeals 2 coming up, where if you have an opinion on this, you can voice your opinion on it. So, just to let everyone know. Any other comments?
I have a
Look,
comment.
I want to solve the problem too, but this vote is not going to take care of it. That's all I have to say. Councilwoman Baumgartner?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that resolution is not necessarily a borough or local government restriction. It's just a statement of our stance. And I think when we have state representatives that are representing the whole state, and as council members, we've received a lot of correspondence from our constituents about this matter, and we've discussed it in various ways. I think it is, in some ways, our responsibility to elevate our constituents' voice and say, as a body, we're hearing this and we want to bring it to your attention as a state so that you can consider all your constituents. So that's all I wanted to state.
And I totally agree with that. The daily newspaper, there is letters to the editor daily with this issue, multiple letters sometimes. And it's not July 4th anymore. It's still continuing on weekends and sometimes during the week. So I totally get it. I just don't think passing laws is not going to work unless you enforce them. Like I said, you cannot shoot them in the borough now.
Mr. President, I kind of look at this letter as a motivation.
It makes you feel good like you're doing something, right?
Correct. I think that this is.
I get it. You get pressure from the public and you want to do something, but it's not going to change unless you enforce it.
I'm asking you to reconsider.
Thank you, but I'm going to lose 6-1. I already know it, so. I'm just a differing view. I want the solution, but I don't think this is it. I don't think this is it, other than banning them in the state, and that's not going to happen. It's not realistic. So, with that being said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. There will be 6 ayes, 1 no. The one with the big nose. All right. Continuing. Thank you, Chairman Hart. General Administration Committee is myself. All right, as you know, we've been having issues with Town Hall roof with leaking. The break room is one spot. I don't know if there's others.
It's pouring like a river in the garage.
So there you go. We got a river in the garage. So we need a motion to move forward with repairing the roof. If somebody would like to make the motion. Councilman Anders, seconded by Councilwoman McManaman. Yeah, they can't raise their hand. They have to speak up, I guess, if they want to. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. We also have Resolution 2020-23, intermunicipal liquor license. Oh, we did the transfer. No, we had to vote on this. So Resolution 2020-23, intermunicipal liquor license transfer from Wawa. And that's pretty much the resolution. So would somebody like to make a motion to approve the resolution? Councilwoman McManaman, seconded by Councilman Anders. Any comments? We had a public hearing prior to council meeting that went about almost a half hour, and there were no objections from the public or any council members. So with that being said, anybody else have a comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. Hanover Engineering Letter of Credit Reduction dated July 13, 2020. I believe we received this in a prior development. Is it the same, or is it just a different development, the same thing where they get reduction of they get money back essentially.
Solicitor Debbie, can you explain the letter of credit reduction and why developers ask for that after they get through certain percentages of the project?
When you have a development, public improvements usually are part of the development. To ensure that those public improvements, streets, lights, shade trees, whatever is in the approved plan, to ensure that they are done, the engineer figures out what the amount of money that has to be either placed in escrow or bonded is put so that that money is there to ensure that the work, the public improvements work is done. When a portion of that work is done at a normal cutoff point, they can then petition to have that reduced to be reflective of the work that is still not done. So they're getting the money back or removed from their letter of credit for the work that they have completed, and the engineer has certified that that work was done. So the truth is that this happens all the time, and technically we're supposed to do this within 45 days of their request. I'm sure under these circumstances, I don't know what the timing has been on this, but no one's said anything. So as long as our engineer, whom we have to rely on to say, okay, the work is done, it's done properly, boom, we can reduce that portion of the letter of credit. That's what this is about.
Thank you. With that said, is there somebody who would like to make the motion for resolution 2020-23? Councilman Valley, seconded by Councilman Hart. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. And then we also have pay increase for Keith Miller, our acting ambulance chief. You need to give more details on that?
Yeah, so at the June 18th Gen Ag Committee meeting, we had a discussion regarding Keith Miller's role, what his pay is for that role, and based on what his duties are, his job titles, and what they pay should be, we are asking, and the committee voted unanimously in favor to recommend the council for official action to increase Keith Miller's salary to $78,000 per year, prorated and retroactive to June 15th.
All right. With that being said, motion by Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilwoman McManaman. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. Our next meeting is August 27th at 9 o'clock. Do not know if that will be a Zoom meeting or in council chambers or a combination of. So, and just for the record, I was in attendance of the July 2nd meeting. I'm not listed there. I don't know if you didn't want me attending any of the meetings.
It might be because I did like 9 meeting minutes in a matter of 3 hours.
But just me both times.
Well, hey, like I said earlier, what am I saying behind the mask?
I don't know. All right, I report progress. Budget and Finance Committee Chairman DeFrank, or?
Yep, I got it. Thank you, Mr. President. So we have a few things for tonight. The first one is we discussed the extension of the time period to pay your property taxes, your borough real estate taxes, without paying the penalty. And our committee is recommending, I'll put this in the form of a motion, that we extend the payment period without getting the penalty to October 31st of 2020. After October 31st, the 10% penalty would apply. So again, we're looking to help our residents in this time where, you know, the economy and a lot of other things are a little out of kilter here. So we're trying to make it a little bit easier to give them a few more months here to pay their real estate tax or borough real estate tax and not incur the 10% penalty. So again, I put in the form of a motion to extend the payment of the face value through October 31st, 2020.
Motion by Councilman DeFran, is there a second? Councilman Hart, discussion? My only question is there a penalty phase then, or is that totally gone?
It would be from November 1st through December 31st, and then it'll go to.
Can we make that part of the motion? Because I don't think that's current now.
Actually, the penalty phase would normally be August 1st through
Right.
December 31st. So what we're doing is extending the face value until October 31st.
I can amend it just to make it crystal clear, but I would think we'd be okay. But I can amend it just to make it crystal clear that after October 31st, the 10% penalty applies, and after December 31st, the same process of turning it over to our solicitor, would take place.
Motion? Chris, are you amending your motion?
Yes, I amended my motion.
You're amending your second? Okay. With that being said, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
Okay, thank you. The next is Resolution 2020-26. That's the bill list. The bill list is $524,147.78. Payrolls 13, 14, and 15 are $481,640.13. Payroll taxes are $257,369.51 for a total being authorized for payment of $1,263,157.42. So it's in the form of a motion.
There's a motion by Councilman DeFran. Is there a second? Councilman Hart. Any questions on the bill? Bill list. The only thing I have on page 23, I'll just quick show you thing. There's a list of a bunch of live or whitetail disposal under composting. Are those actually all composting, or is that just where we're listing them? Like, shouldn't some of those be refuse?
Now, the number right there is correct, 427, 450. It's just the heading up there, but there's a bunch of numbers underneath that.
Would some of them be refuse too? Okay, that's all I had. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
All right, next you can see the list of significant expenses and revenue for June. And then the next item in your packet is the second quarter 2020 budget summary. As Shane says in the little narrative to us, just keep in mind that the budget looks in decent shape right now, but some of that is due to the lag in the revenue that comes. So we're still, EIT and some of those real estate taxes, some of the late payments or the drop in EIT tax, the earned income tax. We're going to start to see the impact of that now because of the lag period on when we collect that. So even though we look in really good shape and pretty good shape right now because we cut expenses and stuff, it's going to get even tighter here as we go through the next few months if things don't change here. So don't just look at the budget and say, oh, we're doing pretty good versus our budget here. Just keep that in mind. And then you can see our meeting minutes. And our next meeting is August 27th. At 11 a.m. And again, that'll be either Zoom or in person. We'll make that decision in a little bit. And other than that, I report progress.
Thank you, Chairman DeFrame. Community Relations Planning and Development Committee, Chairwoman McMahon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item for official action this evening. This topic has not been discussed at committee level. As you know, our community yard sale is scheduled for Saturday, September 12th from 8 to 4. I'd like to discuss holding the event as planned and ask that there be one family yard sales, no sharing or combining households, and encourage residents and attendees to wear masks, social distance, and if at all possible, to limit the handling of goods and encourage one-way traffic at their sale tables. It will be up to each individual household to enforce. So I'd like to make a motion that we hold the community yard sales planned on Saturday, September 12th from 8 to 4 with recommended precautions.
And the rain date also.
Yes.
Motion by Councilwoman McManaman, seconded by Councilman Andrews. Any discussion? Councilman Hart.
Yeah, I should have a discussion with Councilman concerning this. I do object to it, and the The only things to pull us out of this past 4 months, I'm not sure that this is the right one as far as exposure. And it's not suppressing the opportunity for people to have an individual yard sale. They can still do that by requesting a permit for that. Having it community-wide, in my opinion, exacerbates the opportunity for exposure and multiple touching of things, etc. I wish we could have it like we always do. I am a participant every year in it, but I think this year there's just, in my opinion, too much exposure.
Thank you, Councilman Hart. I will be supporting it because it's not for another 8 weeks. And people that want to participate will participate, and people that feel the way Councilman Hart does shouldn't participate then. So
I would like to possibly add in a suggestion of no indoor, say, in garages, if possible. I know the motion was put out, but I'm in support of it, but I would think keep it outdoors. Wearing the masks.
would you support amending here?
Yeah.
Okay, amended, and the second is
I would amend my side.
no indoor meaning garages.
Correct. Indoor garages, basements, whatever.
Okay.
But in the open air, you know, I support it for the community.
That's a good idea. Anybody else?
Yeah, so let me get some clarification here. These are guidelines we're putting out.
Correct.
You don't expect me to go police garages, do you?
You're gonna be here.
Okay. Well, I mean, you
And
have me with me. And we're gonna make sure we give everybody your business card as to why we're after that.
Yeah, these are recommended.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure that that's what we're doing.
Councilwoman Baumgartner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was unable to hear some of the comments, so I apologize if I'm repeating any points that were made. But I have hesitancy because I know that in the past we've had thousands of people coming into the community on my street in particular. It gets pretty busy with people. And I think it would be difficult to enforce any mandates on a community-wide scale. And I also have concern, you know, just in terms of being able to have any sanitation measures in place. There would be people touching and interacting with items, and I just think it could be overwhelming. There are ways that people can sell items that are available. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, this is gonna be a mixed vote, so I'm gonna have to pay attention here on the ayes and the noes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Councilwoman Baumgartner and Councilman Hart. 5-2. You're still on.
And if you haven't already done so, please review the attached meeting minutes, which highlights the continued discussion around the Emmaus marketing plan and the upcoming taping of the Emmaus Main Street Partners A Day in the Life video. We have requested that they highlight the historic sites in Emmaus as well as the Emmaus services that we have. Our next meeting, I believe we decided to do a combination, if I'm not mistaken, will be August 10th at 4:30. With that, I report progress.
Thank you, Chairwoman McManaman. We have no, is Jonas on us with virtual? Jonas is there. All right. Our council member report, Councilman Haldeman.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
So there's been a lot of updates from the East Penn School District about what is going to happen next year. And the thing I wanted to first start off with is what the schedule will be like next year. So the East Penn School District has stated that they are moving to a block schedule, and this will continue even after the commencement of the pandemic threat. And this is expected to be 2021 to 2022. This varies greatly from the 9-period-a-day schedule that was held for decades before the pandemic began. Though the post-pandemic block schedule and next year's block schedule will both be block scheduling, they are actually different styles of block scheduling. So this upcoming year of block scheduling will be in a semester format, and the 2021 to 2022 schedule block scheduling will be the A-B variant. So a semester block schedule is a schedule in which students will take 4 classes per day, and a class in a semester block schedule that would usually last an entire year will take place over 1 semester, which is equivalent to 2 marking periods or half the year, which is also known as a 1-credit class. A half-credit class will take place over 1 marking period, and quarter-credit classes will take place over a half marking period. Besides the educational benefits of this arrangement, this will allow staff to see fewer students per day, as well as students seeing fewer staff per day, and reduce hallway transitions because you won't have to be juggling between 9 classes per day. And this also limits the amount of textbook sharing and supply sharing that would occur in a 9-period-a-day schedule. The East Penn School District is currently working on a master schedule to share with students and parents. And once they release it, which they're expecting towards the end of July, they will be accepting suggestions in August before school starts in order to accommodate everyone. As for other updates, we have the Emmaus Theater Department has officially canceled the show Hello Dolly. Seniors will have a drive-up graduation on Saturday, July 25th, and a virtual ceremony on July 26th. The junior prom has been canceled. Any questions on this part of the school updates?
Jonas, is there a football season?
I have not seen any information on that from their school website, but I'm assuming that they're going to release information as it comes out. I think right now what they're doing is that they're focusing on trying to get the schedule that applies to the mass majority of students, though they could have released information that could have not seen. But from their school website, they've not released any updates from that.
Thank you.
Anything else? I'm going to move on to updates on my junior council project.
Okay.
Okay. So my project so far has gone through many changes as we've been hammering it out. We're going to, instead just focusing on the Emmaus Community Park, we're going to be doing this in phases. And these phases will be able to incorporate multiple parks. The reason that we're incorporating multiple parks and we're splitting into phases is that we're trying to hit the 100 trees that are required for the mandate. And I am still working on tweaking this, but the phases are going to take place over multiple years. So it's going to be picked up by somebody else once I'm no longer the junior councilman. But it's still being hammered out, and I'm going to present it to the Shade Tree Commission. Doug Hall responded to me saying that he is available for me to present to him. So, and what I'm leaning on to present to him is at his meeting at the Shade Tree Commission on Tuesday, August 11th. Any questions on the tree project?
Just for the public's, to let them know, junior council member Hausman decided to take on a project to raise money to plant trees in the borough. Originally, it was going to be all in the community park, as you heard him say, but now it's going to be in various parks and stages. And he is looking for donations of trees or money, correct?
Yes.
And how can they reach you?
So they can reach me. There is a Facebook post on the, I believe it is the Emmaus Facebook page that has a link to my GoFundMe project.
Okay, great. Because we want to, give you a little publicity there, so maybe somebody wants to donate a tree. What's the approximate cost of a tree for somebody to donate?
So I did some calculations. Let me pull them up real quick. Sorry, one second. So it depends on the size of the tree. A 10-gallon tree, which is already pretty grown, would cost $95 per tree. A 5-gallon tree would cost $45 per tree. And then there's also tree roots that we could also grow, which costs a lot less than like an already grown tree. But I plan on using gallon trees, so that's
Basically $100 or less per tree.
yes.
Thank you. It's good to know. Maybe I'll donate a tree or two.
So Mr. Hausman, I just want to say thank you to you and the Parks and Rec Committee. The changes you've made to this project, I think, are excellent. And I think this just postures you to have a very successful junior councilman project. So thank you for your diligence on those changes. I love the idea of moving out to the other parks and to having it proactive with people being able to buy trees as well as. So thanks, Mr. Hausman.
Thank you. It wouldn't be possible without everybody giving me feedback and pushing me in the right direction. Everybody here is such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to how these things work, and I really appreciate your help throughout the process.
Great.
Sorry, if nobody has any further comments, I report progress.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is there's 5 various sets of meeting minutes and different groups from the borough. Personal appeals part 2. If you have a personal appeal, please approach the podium, state your name, sign in, and you have 5 minutes for your appeal.
Okay, yes, my name is Ryan Velasquez. I've been heading the rallies that have been happening. I just wanted to really more publicly, more so for Madam Mayor, I just wanted to thank you for the proclamation. I did catch that attention. The one thing about that proclamation, as great as it is and as encouraging as it is to know that the borough here is taking a stance, is trying to do something, is trying to learn more about what they can do for the future. One thing I did notice, it would be nice to have that made available on Facebook, if possible. I don't think that was posted. I mean, we're living in the day and age now where social media basically is king of the media. So we had to do a little bit of digging to find that at first. And maybe it's because of cell phones, again, the layout of the website, you have to scroll all the way down to find that proclamation, and to make it shareable as a PDF wasn't the easiest thing. But that aside, I just wanted to more publicly thank you for that.
I thought we did put it on.
That's what I'm looking at. I'm actually looking at Mrs. McMahon. Terry, we posted that, right?
Yeah, it should be on the Facebook page.
I mean, we post a lot on that page, so it might have.
We started an Equal Rights Coalition here today, to look into various items of what we're doing, because we had a lot of questions from the community about where does Emmaus stand on it, and some of us decided that we wanted to really find out. So we're in the process of learning where exactly Emmaus stand, the 8 can't wait policies. We were very proud to see that this was taken and adopted by the borough long before this had all become quite the movement it has developed into today. That being said, too, there is some cry for that use of force policy being public and accessible via the internet. I know that the chief has been awesome. I have a lot of respect for him. He's been willing to work with us so far, and we hope to encourage a more positive dialogue as we go through this process of learning each other and community and the diverse community that it makes becoming, and making sure that we're representing people of color or other minority groups properly. So that being said, we're formally asking that this use of force policy be made public. I have received it personally, which I appreciate, but that wasn't the answer to the question we had. What we were looking for was that policy to be made available to anyone that goes to the website.
I'm not gonna publish it, I'm not gonna put it out there, but there is a link on the department's website that if you go to that link, it tells you exactly how to obtain it.
May I ask why?
I don't think it's necessary to post on our policy. If you want it, you ask for it, and we'll give it to you. We have hundreds of policies throughout the borough, and we can't just go around posting one of this or two of that.
We're not asking for one of this.
I understand that, but I'm not gonna start the
policy.
process, I'm not gonna start the process of posting one policy and then being asked to post another and another and another. If you want it, you may have it. All you have to do is fill out the right to know request and you will get it.
Understood.
And I just wanted, the anti-discrimination proclamation is on the website.
Well, then I apologize for missing that.
It's on the website, but I don't see it on our Facebook page.
No, it's on
No, we didn't post it on Facebook.
We'll get it
We'll
posted.
put it on the
Yeah, we'll get it
Facebook,
posted.
yeah.
That's-
I just want to say that there are things that you guys should be proud of. And you obviously you all very much care about this community. And I respect that and I admire that. And something about me, I also care about this community as well. And I'm making sure that people who have concerns are being heard. And part of that is by standing here and addressing these issues, asking the question. So I'm just hoping that as time goes on, we can continually learn and get educated on exactly what systemic racism is and how it impacts our communities, whether the borough may be in it or not. We're proud of what you guys have achieved so far. But that doesn't mean that the community member who lives down the street doesn't have a problem with Puerto Ricans, doesn't have a problem with a person of color living on the street. I couldn't tell you as a biracial person myself, part Hispanic, the slander and slang and discrimination that I hear because I'm white on the outside. They think it's okay to say things to me and assume that I'm like-minded, when in reality, that's my family they're talking about. And that's what I feel within the community of this borough. So why I'm happy that you guys are all doing something about it. There's so much more happening in this community I don't think you're aware of. That's really all I have to say.
Mr. Vasquez, it's nice to hear compliments. We appreciate hearing that. And thanks for getting involved in the community. I mean, we always appreciate that, so.
And we'll put the proclamation on.
Hey, you came to a meeting, so you saw us in action. You see how we work. So, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public appeals? We will unmute our virtual guests. And if anyone has a public appeal, please speak up by stating your name and where you're from. Anybody? Anybody making an appeal?
I think that's Lou.
Hearing none, we'll mute our cyber guests. All right, moving on the agenda, we have Borough Manager's report.
So, as you're aware, if you've read the slew of notes that you got, we're in the middle of a lot of different things. A lot of drafts are sitting out there that we're working on with ordinances. The solicitor has gone through and reviewed several things, public safety. We're going to be I'll be sending that out to you guys with whatever language he changed it to with the parking ordinance to make it more appropriate. I'll get that out to you. I will be out of town on vacation and turning my phone off.
Oh, no.
Yeah, August 2nd through the 16th.
We'll find out.
And I promise you, I'm turning my phone off this time.
We can spend whatever we want.
Yeah. My wife made it very clear I'm turning my phone off. So,
You should just take it.
throw it in the lake somewhere. So I will be out of town. So for your meetings that are scheduled during those weeks. When I set up the Zoom, I will create, whoever the committee chairman is, I will create you as the host of that meeting. So I will take care of that for you. Okay. In all reality, she couldn't take my phone from me.
So we can call.
Well, I won't answer. Kind of like Brent. Today was Brent's turn apparently. From the leaking ceiling to the committee notes. Today's Brent's turn in the barrel. So I'm going to send you a memorandum, a little bit more detailed of a review on where we are with the budget. As Mr. Dufresne was saying earlier today, we had a very detailed discussion as far as where we were with the budget and some of the, I'll call it the false hope numbers that you've seen, that you need to know what the reality looks like. And also, the state has released some data to tell us what we should be expecting in terms of lost revenue, percentages of lost revenue in terms of property tax, EIT, LST, even permits and things like that. So they projected, kind of a low end, a high end, and then they also projected a median. I attended a webinar today and I talked about those numbers, and I think that they could be good numbers moving forward for projections for budget for next year. So I'm going to include that in my memorandum to you. As you know, all the department managers and you received that wonderful July 1st memo that I love to give out every year, saying it's budget time. This one was not with as excited of a voice as normal.
You mean last year's was a good one?
No, but this one's worse. And only I think because of the unknowns for us. It's really kind of the terrifying thing. But that process is starting. You see your schedules. Budget and Finance talk in detail about the fact that we are going to run the budget workshops up to the very last one in December. And I think that's going to be important for us to do. So the department managers are starting to work on those things. A couple of the capital purchases we do need to purchase in the end at some point this year. There's some other things that you're going to need to make decisions on as well that we're working on. You have a dump truck that is going to be delivered in the first or second week of August that we cannot get out of, that was in the middle of production. And the police department, their vehicle is done. It's getting detailed. We should be seeing that mayor in the next week or two, maybe. But for the most part, the rest of the capital purchases did get squashed, and that is helping out with the budget. Personnel, we have an employee who has been on workers' comp for quite some time. There is a legal settlement with him at this point. So we will be going through that process. And we'll probably be asking you to hire. The ambulance chief hiring is underway, and that process will be occurring in the next several weeks. And today was the due date for bids for the 33 Minor Street building. Even though the opening isn't until 30th, officially, we did receive one bid. The other bidder had contacted me this morning and said, essentially he was going to bid, but could not firm up a tenant that he was going to put in there. So we did receive one bid. It is from 7 Generations Foundation. They have finished that foundation legal work. So that is the bid that will be opening on the 30th. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will do more progress.
I read in one of our notes that we will be hiring a public works employee. What will be the timeline for that?
Well, so that's going to be up to you guys. We'll have to get your approval and move forward. So if you remember, I'm already an employee down. You gave me the permission to hire this year. I made the decision not to move forward with that hiring. And with the employee that's been on workers' comp for the last 2 years, called the surgeries, now that we have a legal agreement, once the judge signs off on that legal agreement, now we literally have 2 openings in that department. I do need to fill something somewhere. The department cannot continue to work completely short-staffed, although I think it's a discussion that we'll need to have at Public Works Committee. And then at the bigger picture, I would like to at least have the hiring done by the end of the year, at least for one of those 2 positions. I'm not suggesting that, we need to go hire next week. I mean, we've made it through, but on the other side, I cannot keep going with 2 people short in that department and you keep expecting the level of service that you do.
So maybe a goal before winter, maybe before the snow starts coming.
That would be my goal. That would be my goal. Talking about snow, if anybody knows where we can store about 90 extra tons of rock salt, we'd be more than happy to put it there. The Commonwealth is making everybody buy the unused rock salt that was in the contracts. We have 90 tons to buy. Southbury Township has about 400 tons to buy.
What does that equal?
So think about a 5-ton dump truck, right? So that's a lot of dump trucks. Most of our trucks are about 10 tons, so that's 9 of those big dump trucks that we have. So we had to meet the 2/3 quota.
Any idea where we're going with
that? Well, Upper Milford has been kind enough to donate 1 shed for us to dump there. I think we beat our other neighbors to the punch because I think Lower McCungie has a couple hundred tons they're trying to find a spot for. Allentown has a couple 1,000 tons, I think they have to find a spot for.
I guess the salt sales will go down a little next year.
Well, so that's the thing is you have to put in for the state contract like 9 months ahead of time. So we put in for the same quota every year.
Is it already in?
Yeah, because we had to have it approved for like March. And we can't back out of that because that's how they get their state pricing. So not that I wanted to be a heavy winter, but either I'm gonna have to build another salt shed or we've got to use our rock salt this year. I asked them if we could use it as weed killer, if we could use it as, I don't even know. But that is a challenge. That is a challenge that we have. I'm sorry, what's that? It has to be covered. If you store it outside, it has to be covered. And they don't recommend it being stored outside.
Right, we all have garages, we can.
Water softeners?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So that is a little bit of a challenge that we're doing. Any other questions? Progress.
All right, under president business, I just have mask being worn tonight that would most likely be used for a bank robbery goes to Councilman Hart. So with that being said, motion to adjourn. Councilman Anders, seconded by Councilman Valiant. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. 7 ayes. Meeting adjourned at 8:50. Good job, guys. We've been out of practice for a while.